the movie Pit Boils and Ghouls. It is I, Dr. Ghoulyula, risen from my cinematic crypt to dissect another festering corpse of a film that should have stayed buried 6 feet under the bargain bin. Tonight's victim is the monstrosity known as I'll Always Know What You Did Last Summer, a direct-to-DVD abomination that dared to crawl out in 2006 to sully the already questionable legacy of the I Know What You Did franchise. This third installment takes a steaming shit on everything that made the original 90s flicks even remotely watchable. Not a single fucking cast member from the previous films bothered to return, and who could blame them? Instead, we're treated to a collection of forgettable nobodies stumbling through a script that feels like it was written during a drunken game of Mad Libs. Columbia Pictures apparently hated this thing so much they couldn't even be bothered to put it in theaters, instead tossing it straight to video like a shameful one-night stand. Prepare yourselves, my dear victims, as we hook into this rotting fish of a movie that proves some franchises deserve to stay dead. This is going to be a bloody, painful ride, and not in the fun horror movie way. The production history of this cinematic turd is almost as tragic as watching the actual film. Columbia Pictures had been developing, a third installment since the early 2000s, but the project languished in development hell for years. Frankly, that's where it should have fucking stayed. The original director, Joe Chappelle, was unceremoniously fired before filming began. In swoops Sylvain White, some poor bastard who had just 2 fucking weeks, to cast this garbage fire, find locations, and create a shooting schedule. It's like asking someone to build a Ferrari with a plastic camera and some duct tape. The result is exactly what you'd expect, a spectacular disaster. Sony originally considered giving this film a theatrical release, but after seeing the final product, they must have shit themselves in horror. They dumped it straight to DVD faster than a teenager getting rid of evidence in, well, a What You Did Last Summer movie. How fucking meta. The worst part, nobody asked for this movie. Not the fans of the original 90s films, not the cast who wisely ran away from it, not even the executives who greenlit it. This was purely a soulless cash grab, hoping to milk a few more dollars from a franchise that was already on life support. White proudly stated he avoided CGI for this film, opting for practical effects because gore looks more realistic that way. Well, congratulations on that artistic integrity while directing a movie where an undead fisherman with a hook terrorizes Colorado teenagers. That's like bragging about using real butter on a shit sandwich. The script went through multiple iterations, including one version about wilderness excursion teens being hunted. Somehow they landed on recycling the original premise, but with none of the charm, familiar faces, or basic competence. It's like they took everything good about the originals and methodically removed it, then smeared the remaining creative excrement across 92 minutes of runtime. So let me get this straight. The plot of this masterpiece begins in Broken Ridge, Colorado, because nothing says Fisherman like a landlocked mountain town, right? These genius teens decide the best 4th of July prank is to fake a fisherman killing, because traumatizing carnival goers is just wholesome American fun. But wait, it gets better. Their friend PJ somehow ends up genuinely fucking dead, impaled on a tractor smokestack. Oops, minor inconvenience. Instead of, calling the police, these rocket scientists decide to burn evidence and make a pact of silence. Brilliant. A year later, our protagonist Amber gets about 50%. I Know What You Did Last Summer text. Gee, I wonder who that could be. Maybe the friend you murdered and covered up, you absolute shitheads? The movie then plods through the most predictable slasher formula imaginable. Teens getting picked off one by one in increasingly stupid ways. Roger dies drunk, Colby gets hooked through the mouth, Zoe gets the balcony treatment. It's like watching a checklist of horror cliches being methodically crossed off by a bored intern. But here's where this masterpiece truly ascends to legendary levels of stupidity. The killer is revealed to be, wait for it, Ben Willis. Yes, the Ben Willis from the original films, now an undead supernatural killer. Because apparently this franchise needed to rip off Jason Goes to Hell for inspiration. What the actual fuck were they thinking? The reason this Ben Willis is hunting these Colorado teens who have absolutely zero connection to the original murders is, well, the movie doesn't bother explaining that. He's just an equal opportunity murderer now. Supernatural, immortal, and apparently able to teleport all the way to Colorado despite dying in the ocean. The cherry on top of this shit's sundae? After our survivors supposedly kill undead Ben and a thresher because farm equipment is the kryptonite of slasher villains, he returns 1 year later to kill our final girl in the desert. Because why the fuck not? Logic checked out of this movie before the opening credits. Let's talk about the cast of I'll Always Know What You Did Last Summer, or as I call them, the Who the Fuck Are These People ensemble. If the original films featured up-and-coming talents like Jennifer Love Hewitt and Sarah Michelle Gellar, this one scraped the bottom of the barrel so hard it hit the Earth's core. Brooke Nevin, as our protagonist Amber, delivers her lines with all the emotional depth of a kiddie pool. When she's supposed to be terrified, she looks mildly inconvenienced, like someone just told her the Starbucks is closed. Her big emotional moments feel like she's reading the nutrition facts out of cereal box. Oh no. Fisherman is after us again. That's scary. David Paycow as Colby might be the blandest leading man in slasher history. The original films had Ryan Phillippe and Freddie Prinze Jr. This film has a walking, talking slice of white bread. His chemistry with Nevin is so non-existent it creates a fucking black hole on screen. Tori DeVito's portrayal of Zoe is a masterclass in how to play a stock character with zero personality traits beyond likes music and has hair. When she gets tossed over that balcony, my only thought was at least she doesn't have to be in this movie anymore. Ben Easter S. Lance might be the only one who understood what movie he was in, and that's not a compliment. His performance screams, "This is going straight to DVD and I have bills to pay. The rest of the cast are so forgettable, I'd need their headshots tattooed on my eyelids to remember them." The most telling thing is where these actors ended up. While the original cast went on to major careers, this group largely vanished into obscurity. The biggest success story from this cast is probably getting a recurring role on a CW show that got canceled after 2 seasons. The only authentic performance in the entire film is Don Shanks as the Fisherman. But that's because his face is covered by a mask and he doesn't have any lines to butcher. When your most believable character is a supernatural fisherman zombie who communicates exclusively through hook-based violence, you've got a serious fucking problem with your cast. Now let's dive into the visual cesspool that is Sylvain White's direction and cinematography. Holy shit, this film looks like it was shot on equipment borrowed from your local community college's AV club. White, who was brought in at the last minute after the previous director got canned, clearly had all of 15 minutes to plan his shots before someone yelled, "Action!" The film has that distinct flat, washed-out look that screams direct-to-DVD garbage. The cinematography by Stephen M. Katz makes Days of Our Lives look like it was shot by Roger Deakins. Every scene is lit like someone was trying to save on the electric bill. Half the time you can barely see what the fuck is happening, which might actually be a blessing in disguise. The kill scenes, you know, the main attraction in a slasher film, are staged with all the creativity of a DMV waiting room. Remember the iconic chase sequences from the original films? Well, forget all that tension and replace it with poorly framed shots where you see either too much or too little of the action. There's a kill in a kitchen that's so poorly staged it looks like the actor tripped and fell onto the hook by accident. White's idea of building suspense is to have characters walk very slowly while looking around corners. Motherfucker, this isn't revolutionary filmmaking. It's the visual equivalent of watching paint dry while someone occasionally yells, "Boo!" The set pieces are equally pathetic. The carnival scene at the beginning has all the production value of a traveling circus that's one health code violation away from being shut down. The concert where Zoe performs looks like it was filmed in someone's garage with 3 extras doing their best to look like a crowd. And don't get me started on the final confrontation in that warehouse. It's so poorly lit you'd think the cinematographer was actively hiding from the audience how shitty this set looks. The climactic thresher scene is shot so incompetently that you can practically see the cardboard cutout they used instead of actual special effects. In what universe did anyone think this looked good enough to carry the franchise name? This isn't just bad direction, it's criminal negligence against the art of filmmaking. Sylvain White didn't direct this movie. He held the camera hostage while the script committed visual suicide in front of our eyes. Now let's talk about the audio disaster that is this film's sound design and music. If your ears ever wanted to file for divorce from your head, This soundtrack would be Exhibit A in the custody battle. The score is so generic and forgettable, it might as well be titled Stock Music for Shitty Horror Movies. Volume 3. The composer clearly went with the press random keys on a synthesizer while occasionally hitting the spooky string button approach. It's like they downloaded a free trial version of horror movie composer software and just used the demo presets. There's not a single memorable musical moment in the entire fucking film. But the true crime against humanity is the sound design. Jump scares in this movie don't just announce themselves, they send out formal invitations with RSVP cards. Every single one is telegraphed by the most obvious audio cues: silence, silence, loud fucking noise. It's the audio equivalent of someone screaming "boo" while wearing a neon sign that says "I'm about to scare you." The dialogue sounds like it was recorded in a bathroom stall at a truck stop. Half the time, actors seem to be competing with the background noise to be heard, and the other half, they're inexplicably crystal clear despite being in a windstorm. The sound mixing is so inconsistent, you'll be reaching for your remote every 30 seconds to adjust the volume. The fisherman's footsteps sometimes sound like he's wearing concrete boots, and other times he's apparently floating on air. And that hook? It makes the same exact metallic shing sound every single time it appears on screen, as if the sound editor only had one hook effect and just copy-pasted it throughout the movie. What's truly remarkable is how the audio manages to kill any tension the film desperately tries to build. A good horror movie uses silence effectively. This one uses it like a toddler uses a timeout, reluctantly and with no understanding of its purpose. The result isn't scary, it's just annoying as shit. Let's talk about the practical effects in the cinematic abortion, which somehow managed to look cheaper than the original 90s films despite being made in fucking 2006. The director proudly boasted about not using CGI because practical effects look more realistic. Well, congratulations, dipshit. You've proven that practical effects can look just as fake as CGI when you have the budget of a middle school science project. The fisherman's costume looks like it was assembled from a Halloween clearance bin on November 1st. The iconic slicker that once struck fear into audiences now has the texture and appearance of a garbage bag with armholes. The hook, the franchise's signature weapon, looks like it was crafted from aluminum foil and spray paint. When it catches the light wrong, you can practically see the price sticker they forgot to remove. The death scenes are so laughably executed they transcend bad into the realm of performance art. Remember when Colby gets hooked in the mouth? The hook goes in like it's penetrating warm butter, and the blood spurts out with all the realism of ketchup being squeezed from a fast food packet. You can almost hear the prop master off-camera squeezing a dollar store squeeze bottle. Then there's Zoe's balcony fall. Sweet motherfucker, it's like they didn't even try. The dummy they threw over has all the weight and physical properties of a mannequin stuffed with newspaper. It falls with such unnatural stiffness that you'd think gravity works differently in this movie's universe. The crown jewel of pathetic effects has to be the thresher scene at the end. When Ben Willis gets pulled into it, the gore looks like someone threw strawberry jam at the camera. The undead killer, who's supposed to be a terrifying supernatural threat, gets defeated by farm equipment in a sequence that has all the visual flair of a public service announcement about farm safety. Even the simple effects are botched. Stab wounds look painted on. Blood has the consistency of cherry Kool-Aid. And when the undead Ben Willis is revealed, his decomposed face looks like someone applied Halloween makeup with a spatula during an earthquake. It's not scary. It's a fucking joke that makes the original's practical effects look like cutting-edge industrial light and magic work by comparison. If the original I Know What You Did Last Summer was an iconic 90s slasher that knew exactly what it was, then this third installment is like watching someone who's never seen a horror movie try to explain what made the original work after hearing about it secondhand from their drunk uncle. The original films, flawed as they might have been, understood the fundamental appeal of the slasher genre. They gave us relatable characters with actual personalities, genuine tension, and a killer with clear, understandable motivation. Sure, they weren't fucking Shakespeare, but at least they respected the audience enough to follow basic storytelling principles. This soulless cash grab takes everything that worked in the originals and throws it in a dumpster, then sets the dumpster on fire, then pisses on the ashes. The first film had Jennifer Love Hewitt, Sarah Michelle Gellar, Ryan Phillip, and Freddie Prinze Jr., all charismatic actors who could carry a scene. This one has a cast with all the screen presence of wet cardboard. But the most unforgivable sin of this shit show is the supernatural turn. The original Fisherman was terrifying precisely because he was human, a vengeful man seeking retribution. There was logic to his madness. In this disaster, Ben Willis is somehow an immortal undead boogeyman who can teleport and survive being run over by a car. What the fuck? It's like they watched Jason X and thought, how can we make our franchise equally stupid? This supernatural pivot completely betrays what made the original work. It's as if the filmmakers looked at the franchise's success and said, you know what improved this? If we took a giant shit on everything that made people like it in the first place? The original's grounded nature and real-world terror are replaced with supernatural nonsense that feels like it belongs in a completely different series. The 90s films knew how to build tension through atmosphere and stalking sequences. They understood that the threat of violence was often scarier than the violence itself. This pathetic excuse for a sequel just throws random jump scares at you like a monkey flinging feces, hoping something will stick. Let's be fucking honest here. I'll always know what you did last summer. Didn't just kill the franchise, it took it out back, shot it repeatedly, buried it in an unmarked grave, and then poured concrete over the whole goddamn thing. The fact that it took 15 plus years for anyone to even consider resurrecting this corpse of a franchise speaks volumes about how thoroughly this cinematic abortion murdered its own legacy. And you know what? It deserved to die. When you make a film this catastrophically bad, extinction is the kindest outcome. This movie represents everything, and I mean everything, that was wrong with horror sequels in the 2000s. It was the perfect shitstorm of creative bankruptcy, cynical studio calculation, and complete contempt for the audience's intelligence. The direct-to-video horror sequel boom of the 2000s gave us some of the most soulless cash grabs in cinema history. But this motherfucker stands out as particularly egregious. Some executive at Sony clearly looked at the balance sheet and thought, hey, we can slap together a third one for pocket change, call it the same thing, and trick enough horror fans into renting this turd to turn a profit. It's filmmaking as a purely financial transaction with zero artistic merit. This wasn't made because someone had a story to tell or a vision to share. It was made because some suit realized they could exploit brand recognition to squeeze a few more dollars from a dead franchise. The entire production reeks of that good enough mentality that plagued direct-to-video sequels. Minimal effort, maximum profit. What's truly depressing is that this film killed any chance of a legitimate continuation of the series that might have actually honored what came before. Instead of getting a thoughtful revival or reimagining, we got this sloppy, lazy excuse for entertainment that ensured nobody would touch the franchise with a 10-foot pole for almost 2 decades. So here we are, at the bloody end of this cinematic autopsy. And what's left to say about I'll always know what you did last summer that hasn't already been covered in our dissection? Let me summarize this catastrophe. We've got a plot so nonsensical it makes a fucking fever dream look coherent. Characters so forgettable I've already forgotten their names while talking about them. And performances so wooden they could have been replaced with actual mannequins and no one would notice the difference. The script reads like it was written by a drunk teenager who once overheard someone describe the original movie through a wall. The direction has all the visual flair of a security camera at a 7-Eleven. And don't get me started on the supernatural bullshit they pulled out of their ass. An undead Ben Willis? Really? That's the best they could do? Taking a grounded slasher series and turning it into some half-assed ghost story is like taking a perfectly good steak and covering it in fucking Skittles. The 2006 special effects somehow look cheaper than what they did in the 90s films. The kill scenes are so poorly executed they border on comedic. The dialogue is so painfully bad that several times I had to pause to question if I was dreaming that this was as bad as it was. This movie is the equivalent of finding a dead rat in your breakfast cereal. Shocking at first, then just increasingly disgusting the longer you look at it. Well, my horrified little freaks, I think we spent enough time wallowing in this cinematic septic tank for one day. I'll always know what you did last summer isn't just bad. It's the kind of bad that makes you question your life choices. The kind of bad that makes you wonder if perhaps you've died and this is your personal hell. Forced to watch direct-to-DVD horror sequels for all eternity. Would I recommend this movie? Sure, if you hate someone enough to make them suffer, but not enough to actually commit a crime. Perhaps there's an audience for this putrid pile of celluloid somewhere. Possibly the same people who enjoy getting paper cuts between their fingers or stepping on Lego pieces in the dark. This movie isn't just a stake through the heart of the I Know What You Did franchise. It's a fucking wood chipper that reduced it to unrecognizable bloody pulp. The 90s slasher renaissance deserved better than to be put down like this in the 2000s. What a goddamn shame. So as we drag ourselves from this unholy grave of a movie, I'm giving I'll Always Know What You Did Last Summer a pathetic 3 out of 10 stars. And that's me being generous after my 4th whiskey. Those 3 stars represent the 3 brain cells that didn't die while watching this shit show. If you enjoyed watching me suffer through this abomination, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the Movie Pit, and ring that notification bell so you never miss another review where I sacrifice my sanity for your entertainment. This has been Dr. Ghoulyula reminding you that some movies are better left buried. Sleep tight, my pretties, and remember, someone's always watching where you're streaming and judging you for it. Well, boils and ghouls, may all your nightmares be more entertaining than this movie. And as always, till next time, kiddies.